Thank you. And I apologize if my dog barks. He's not vicious, but occasionally he gets jealous or something, wants to be part of the party. So I apologize for that in advance. So I have the wonderful honor of introducing Nicole Meyer with the topic of putting your best foot forward, women navigating and negotiating in fintech. And I have to say, when I think about it, the words that come to me are like, okay, how do you really stand out? And I've known Nicole for a long time. And if anybody stands out, it is Nicole. Number one, she's tall, but also she's so competent. She is an entrepreneur. She founded her own company, an executive search firm. She was a former banker. I mean, that's how we met. We won't go through the gory details. She's been a hiring management, a talent recruiter. I think I've known Nicole for a very long time. She works with the best and the brightest in the industry, and then she matches them with companies that are really some of the top financial institutions that we all know, that are global institutions. And, I think we would all, aspire to work for or with. And I think the interesting thing about Nicole is she has really evolved. And, in the financial services space, there is a lot of transformation happening, whether it's open banking, API, artificial intelligence, Bitcoin, blockchain, all of those things. And, that's the space that she's also, emerging into, because that's a lot of what the financial services companies have needed and still continue to want. She is a very frequent speaker all around the globe. I've spoken with her. So Nicole, without further ado, welcome. We're so excited to have you. So thanks for joining us. I don't know if you want to say a few things.
No, that's a wonderful introduction. My full-time job is running my own company. It is executive search, executive recruitment. Our clients, for the most part, are banks and some fintech companies as they relate to payments. It's a real niche. So even, Karen, what you were talking about probably falls within what we do as well. But I feel passionately about helping others. Again, my day job is recruitment. That's what I do. That's what I get paid for. But I do speak a lot publicly because I have decades of experience. I've seen a lot. I think I've got a lot to say when it comes to development. And frankly, I've been there. I was in industry. I was a practitioner. Lynn and I met years ago. And I say that lovingly. Many years ago, in banking together. We were colleagues in banking together. So I've been on the other side of the table. Now I'm certainly on the recruitment side, but delighted to be with you. My views are my views only from decades of experience. And I obviously see a lot coming in from clients who are looking for talent, from people who are looking for new opportunities. These are stressful times for all of us. I do want to say everyone's got their own agenda on the call today, but what we do share is this common human experience, which is really testing all of us today. And I'm glad to have you here. Please make comments in the chat section. If you don't see me responding to something and you want an answer, just please say something. Just shout out. Because it's a challenge to look at the chat and look at the camera and stay on point. And I could probably do this for 3 hours and we still wouldn't cover everything. So I know we have a tight time frame today, so I'll leave it there.
Thank you. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. So I'm going to reach out with the first question. And then Kim DiNicola, who's also on the board of FintechWomen, is going to position it because she comes from a similar background. And she's going to ask a couple questions. So we're going to start the conversation that way. And as we always do, we're going to end up with an open Q&A forum for everybody. So if you have a question, you can either put something in the chat, as Nicole said, or wait till the very end. So Nicole, I'm going to dig right in. And, the thing, women navigating, negotiating, when I think about women I know, it's just so hard for women to negotiate. So, how do you do that if you're uncomfortable? How do you put your best foot forward in negotiation? And negotiation, well, I'd like to hear, your sort of definition of negotiation for women in fintech.
Well, look, I mean, most people, when they think of negotiating and also networking, they recoil sort of, I don't want to. Look, whether you know it or not, you negotiate every day. You negotiate for who gets the Zoom camera. You negotiate with your children about what time they're going to bed or what they're going to eat at the dinner table. You negotiate with your partner, your spouse, your significant other, your friends on where are we going and what are we doing. And frankly, you negotiate on behalf of your companies for partnerships to buy supplies, and you negotiate with people for investment spend, for time in the calendar. We negotiate everywhere, and whether you know it or not. And I do like to think about negotiation as a process of discovery versus I want something and I
¿En
need to
cuánto
get it.
llegamos? ¿Qué le digo?
Could someone put themselves on mute, please? So I do like to think of negotiation as, you know, a process of discovery, because the reality is you're negotiating with somebody across the table, and whether you're trying to buy a car, lower your monthly payment on something, or you're looking for a job, or you're asking for a raise, these are all negotiations. And I do think you need to reframe how you think about negotiation in not so much us versus them, but how do I influence the other person across from me? And I'm telling you, there are lots of techniques. We could do an entire session on negotiation, but I will say it's worth your time to read up on it, look online for classes. I can make recommendations of classes to take, but a lot of negotiation, in my opinion, has to do with empathy and having empathy for the other person on the other side of the table, because ultimately you want to get them on your side. And to do that, there really are some very specific tools and techniques, which we probably don't have time for today. But I will tell you, one of the things is something called mirroring, which is you repeating back to the person on the other side of the table what they have said, but in regards or with respect to asking a question of them. If they say, well, that's, you know, I can't do that. Responding back, you can't do that? Why? I mean, you will be amazed at how human nature and personalities evolve in then divulging more, you learning more, what's motivating the person on the other side of the table to have their own position. And it really is a technique that helps you to get them on side, to get them to be empathetic to your cause so you can get what you want. So, but we negotiate all day long, and people really do recoil from it because they feel that it's, I don't want to be too aggressive, it's me versus them. But I think you really need to reframe your thoughts about it to make it about discovery and figuring out what the other person's needs are, helping them with their needs. And frequently their need is for fairness. You know, they sort of call it the F word in negotiation, and it's fair. What's fair? What does that other person feel is fair? What do you feel is fair? So it opens up tons of questions about negotiation, but it really is something that you can master, whether you are an introvert, an extrovert, whether you've done it before or not. You've all done it. You just don't know that you've been negotiating all this time, but you do it all the time, all the time. So I'm sure that probably, you know, leaves people with, where do I go from here? And by the way, you don't have to like negotiation. You just have to figure out how to use it to your advantage, right? And while that may feel somewhat manipulative, it's not. People do this all the time to you. You just don't know it yet. So, but I think you'll find going forward, as you have conversations with people, you'll think, I think they're negotiating. I think I see this happening. You'll be surprised now how many times people will ask you a question. You think, I just said that. Why are they saying that back to me? It's because they've figured out that's how they connect with you. That's how they build a bond. So there's shared interest in coming to the right outcome. And then you go to the right outcome. I will say, because everybody asks me about it, and so I'll sort of preempt it. People always ask me, how can I negotiate for a raise? Well, you can. I wouldn't go in and say, I'm here for a raise. I think part of what you need to negotiate for that, or negotiate for a promotion, is to really understand your value to a company, which is, I think, part of what we want to talk about here today as well, which is, do you really understand the value you have to your company, the contribution and impact that you make, and how do you define that? Because I do think that is something that everybody, in particular women, struggle with, and that is, what am I contributing? How good am I? How do I know I'm actually good at what I do? So I will sort of stop there and just frankly ask if you have questions on what I've said thus far. Quiet group.
Well, I'm going to speak up because I'm not shy. And I love your thing about value in negotiation. I was listening to Squawk Box this morning, and Reed Hastings, the founder of Netflix, was on. And one of the things he said, which really took me aback, was every employee in this organization is viewed as, are they expendable? Are you worth what, I pay you? Could I find someone on the street that's, but it's all the time they're evaluating their employees. And he said, it's either fire or keep. There's no in between. There's no like, get better. It's like, and somebody said, whoa, that was pretty harsh. And he said, we live in a harsh world. This company, we've taken it from, a startup to a multi-billion-dollar company that is the likes of Disney and others. I thought it was really interesting. You're evaluated every day, whether you believe that or not. So, I mean, I thought the value you talked about was really very interesting.
Look, I think each of you should figure out, if you haven't figured it out already, what your contribution is to your firm. And I highly encourage each one of you to take a look at what you're doing, the impact you're having on the firm. And by impact, I mean a financial metric. I mean, is it sales you're driving? Is it product development? If you're a manager of people, is it retention of people? There is a financial metric, I am convinced, in every job that can define your contribution. And I think if you're going in, again, going back to the negotiation topic, if you're going in to ask for a raise or a promotion, if you can't quantify your value to the firm and talk about that as frankly being justification for asking for more money or for a promotion, then I don't think you have much of a leg to stand on, since you're the one asking for something. I think you've got to go in and you've got to do your homework. These are things that are really difficult to do on a whim, or because you wake up one morning and think, I want more money. I'm going in to ask for more money. I think it's incumbent upon you to show how valuable you are to the firm. And even if you're looking for a new job, you have got to be able to speak about yourself, I think, in quantifiable terms. It's the one thing that most people leave off their resumes. And I cannot tell you how many conversations I have every day about resumes and people. And 9 times out of 10, there are no metrics on a resume. There's absolutely nothing on there for me to be able to believe that you are as good as you say you are, because you've included no financial metrics. There's nothing on there to show what you've achieved, how you've exceeded goals, the impact that you've had on the top line or the bottom line or on people. I will say that is the one area universally that I don't know. I think everybody, they forgot to teach this in school. Nobody does it. And even very senior executives don't do it. And what ends up happening is, it's an objective perspective on how good you are. And look, I think we as women underplay our success. I think we underplay how strong we are. I think we underplay our contributions for lots of different reasons. We don't want to come across as being too aggressive. We don't want to come across as being needy. We don't want, or maybe we don't even believe we're that good. Maybe we are lacking in confidence. Maybe we are lacking in, certainly not ambition, but the confidence to stand up and say, yeah, look at the impact I've had on this role. Listen, I would challenge all of you to go back today, think about what you do, and come up with at least one financial metric. Something that you've done to increase something, productivity, market share, revenue, reduce costs, improve profitability, maintain 0 turnover on your team, 100% retention, or even 90% retention. Something like that. I'm sure that you can do that, but I will say, I do think you need to think about yourself in that light. Someone brought up a question: what if you're not involved in the cost of the service you, through your company, provide to the client? That's fine. Is there something that you do that helps to onboard clients faster? Do you manage projects? Can you take a look at on-time performance of those projects? Can you take a look at whatever you do that gets handed off to someone else, that might be client facing? If you were not to do your job, I am sure there's an impact on the company. I really do think there are, and I don't know anything more about the question, but I really do think that there are ways to quantify what it is that you do. And again, you don't have to say dollars and cents about a company, but 100% completion, on time onboarding, 100%, or, you know, I get things done in half the time, which enables the salespeople to go out and drive more business. Well, I think there is a financial metric associated with that. But I really do think, and also let's be clear, data speaks for itself. So it's an objective viewpoint on your role. And I think it helps massively, So I do want to go back. Somebody did send a question about negotiation. And the question, you know, are there coaching skills that you can use when negotiating without coming across as condescending? I think if you're coming from a position of feeling that you're condescending, then I think you need to reframe how you negotiate. And remember, there's somebody on the other side of the table, and they don't want to be condescended to. They don't want to feel like you're speaking down to them. And I think you need to focus on them until you understand that negotiating and the people on the other side of the table have their own agenda, and understanding what that is and understanding what their pain points are, understanding what their needs and fears are. It's going to be hard for you to be perceived as anything but condescending in making demands on what you need. And look, I'm happy to take these conversations offline too, because I know that we have limited amounts of time. But these are important topics, really important topics.
I'm going to turn the baton over to you.
Sorry, go ahead.
So Nicole, this was actually a perfect pivot, because I think that, you know, we really wanted to talk about, you know, you getting to the stage of negotiating. First, you got to get the job, right? And so how do you get noticed? And you're involved in generating pipelines of candidates all the time. And I think this is really, really very helpful of having a metrics-driven resume and those sorts of things. But is there anything else that, you know, you can think of to, you know, that comes to light that really stands out to you is how someone can get noticed? What you know, what is it that somebody can put that that you can offer for people to put on their resume? It might be a missing link, sort of a consistent thread that you see, you know, beyond even the metrics driven. Anything that you can share?
Yes, look, chances are for sure. Chances are you're going to get your next job, not through a recruiter like me, but through your network. Yeah. Through your network, and frankly, being in the right place at the right time. I am always surprised.
Kids, it's primarily like, sorry.
Sorry. I am always surprised at people who have one version of resume that they send to everybody. I'm here to tell you, you need multiple versions of your resume, and you need to fine-tune your resume to the job and the company that you are approaching. It is a remarkable full-time job to look for a job when you've got a full-time job. It is a lot of work. I do think one of the things that helps you to get noticed, one is to have to your point, Kim, a metrics-driven resume. Show your value and efficiencies, but make it a number. Because whether you are networking, you are applying online, at some point, someone will read your resume, but you may be going through a process that is completely AI driven, in which case your resume is going to be fed through a system. An algorithm is going to look for keywords. And if you've not included the keywords for the job description you are applying for, they're not going to find you. You're not going to get a phone call, which is why I think you need to customize your resume and or a cover letter to every job that you are applying to. And if the job calls for very technical skills, you need to be coding. You need to know Python. You need to be able to do something that is highly technical. And you actually don't have those skills, but you have everything else they are looking for in terms of softer skills, and maybe even some of the other technical skills. I think you have to really Set your expectations that this may not be the right role for you to apply to. However, look, hardly anyone ever has the 7 or 8 criteria that are listed on a job description. These people just do not exist. So whether it's AI, whether it's a person, whether it's a group of people, they are going to be looking for the 7 things that they need on your resume for those 7 words. And I also think, by the way, and this is just, sort of digging deep into resumes.
Yep.
I am of the opinion, and again, everyone you ask about a resume is going to give you a different answer about what they think is the secret ingredient here and the secret sauce for a resume. For me, the secret sauce is at the top of your resume, you don't have a paragraph about being an engaging leader and a motivated team member, because you know what? Aren't we all engaging and motivated?
Right.
Don't we all say we're engaging and motivated? We do.
Mm-hmm.
Take that off your resume. Use that space, which is, as far as I'm concerned, is just like in real estate, location, location, location. That is prime real estate on your resume. I am of the opinion at the top of your resume, you have bullet points that show off your core competencies. And for the role you are applying to, if your core competencies do not reflect the job description that you've read, your resume is just not going to get acknowledged or read in all likelihood. So make it specific, really make it specific. And if you don't know what your core competencies are, and lots of people are not sure, ask someone.
Right.
Look at the job description for the role that you're sitting in, because in all likelihood you have one, and look at what the job description is calling for in terms of competencies, or ask your boss. Ask someone. You must have a performance appraisal at some point during the year. And hopefully you have multiple performance appraisals and opportunities to talk about your performance. Ask your boss what your core competencies are. I think it's really important to understand what that is, because isn't that really, again, at the basis of what do I look for, or what do I think I'm good at? And look, don't undersell yourself. I think we as women have a tendency to undersell ourselves and to not give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. You know what? I'm here to tell you, pull up your big girl pants and fake it until you get there. And look, we all do. Fake it until you make it. If you don't feel like, I don't know if I'm qualified, I think it's holding me back, I'm a little afraid, put yourself out there. Do it. You
Nicole,
are qualified.
One of the things I wanted to ask you related to this, I think we had a good conversation the other day about this, is, also being able to reflect to yourself in the best light, but make sure you're also reflecting the job you want to do, right? As opposed to if you're in something you really want to pivot from or not what you want to be doing. Can you talk a little bit about that, just in terms of, making sure that that's, that you're pursuing aspirationally where you want to be, as opposed to kind of staying in something that you really want to get away from?
Look, I think when you wake up in the morning, as you're opening your eyes, if you're thinking, can't wait to get back to that project.
Yeah.
I want to figure out the answer to that problem. I want to solve for that problem. Or I can't wait to get back and brainstorm with my team. Whatever. If you're not having feelings like that, but it is drudgery. Now look, coronavirus is certainly putting a damper on everything. And frankly, everybody, be kind to yourselves. This is a really stressful time for everybody. It is the single universal truth we all share at the moment. And that is, I don't know anyone who's not feeling the impact, the effect, the stress, and the burden of this pandemic. It just makes everything more complicated and everything harder. So be kind to yourselves. But if you're waking up and you're feeling like, I hate this job, I hate what I do, I've got to get out of here, then you might want to take a serious look at, oh my God, am I in the right job? Now, look, is now the right time to be looking for a job? There are fewer jobs out there at the moment, right? Open positions normally are the result of attrition. People are not leaving. People are not moving. Risk tolerances have changed. That doesn't mean there aren't roles out there. There are roles out there. And you ought to try to figure out, if you're not excited and energized about what you do, I would take a hard look at, what am I doing? What are the core competencies? Because the fact is, you may be doing something that you're good at doing, but you don't even enjoy it. So why are you doing that?
Right.
Find a core competency that fuels your passion, that fuels your energy, that actually gives you energy rather than draining it from you. And that's frankly taking a hard look at who you are, what you're doing, and what you might rather be doing. Look, we all, and I certainly did when I was in banking, I let inertia take me forward. And I thought, well, sure, I'm getting promoted. I'm getting more money. I'm getting a different title. I'm getting a team. Yeah, of course I want to do that. And I'm here to tell you that I didn't like managing people one bit. That's why I have a very small company. That is not my core competency. And I struggled. I had 50 people at one time. And I thought, if one more person comes in here and tells me the dog ate their homework, I might say something I regret. Because I actually don't care that they ate your homework. They eat my homework every day too, but I still show up and do my job. So I thought, okay, I kind of think this is maybe not the right job for me to be managing people like this. I need to go back to doing. Again, that was difficult for me. That was hard for me to acknowledge, but I'm telling you, I'm much happier, much happier. But I challenge all of you to think about things like that too. Don't just go for the next job you think in the evolution of what you're doing today, because it looks right as the next job. Stop, take a breath, and listen. I actually think in many ways we have more options today because at the moment we're all working from home. So location is not the key driver of taking a look at new opportunities today.
Really, it casts a wider net for us.
Absolutely. Why not?
Location is important. You know, I think one of the things, you know, kind of going back to what we were talking about, and I love what you talk about, you know, negotiating, whether we realize we're doing it or not. Now more than ever, we've been doing it through COVID, whether it's, you know, with children that are being homeschooled, or it's roommates or spouses or whatever the case may be. We're really having to play, you know, kind of just sort of a dance here as far as people, you know, getting work done or whatever they need to be doing. But, you know, and I think it is important because I think sometimes we don't necessarily reflect on, you know, the things that we're doing that, you know, would fall into that negotiating category. So great to build off those skills. But one of the things we talked about was, you know, the underplaying, right? Underplaying someone's value. And I think that, you know, I wonder, underplaying or recognizing value. I was particularly struck by our participants today as they answered the question about kind of what's holding them back. And there was a continuous thread of confidence or not sure or where I play. Any advice that you can give to people to really how to dig down deeply and find that confidence, you know, to whether it's negotiating or whether it's, you know, jumping into a new field, whatever that is, how do women really capitalize on finding that confidence and recognizing their value?
Yeah, and look, this is, I think, I can't explain it. I'm not a psychologist. I didn't study this, but look, let's be clear. Women have less confidence in the workplace than men. It appears. I think, you know, men are far more comfortable with raising their hands and saying, I can do that job. I can do it. And here's why. Women, I think, they approach new roles differently. And I constantly tell my clients, when women interview and they say, well, why isn't she sure she wants the job? I say, because women have to evolve into a decision. It's not black and white for women, where I think sometimes it is more black and white for men. But so it takes women time. And so you're not alone if you feel like you're lacking in confidence, and that may be what's holding you back. I do take us back, I feel like a one-trick pony here, but I do take us back to metrics. Because again, metrics are an objective viewpoint on the performance of your job. So how can you deny if you're doing well, exceeding expectations on performance reviews, exceeding your goals? How can you not look at that objectively and say, I'm obviously good at what I do. I'm obviously doing well here. And let that guide you rather than your lack of confidence. You know, I said it before, a bit tongue in cheek, you know, fake it until you make it, but why not? I mean, listen, I think for years, I did well in sales roles in banking, but never really felt like I was good enough to really put my hand up for a big job. And that was just my own insecurity, my own lack of confidence. I don't have a secret as to how I came to feel more confident, except that somewhere along the way, I realized, I am valuable. I am an important piece of this continuum, whatever it is that we do at work. And without me, the process doesn't work as efficiently. And I think it's trying to look at yourself in that light that I think really helps to build up confidence. And by the way, you don't have to do this alone. Build a support network. I wouldn't build the support network solely of your best friends, because they are going to tell you you're fabulous. But I would find 2 or 3 people, and whether it's a mentor, whether it's someone that you've connected with professionally, whether it's somebody outside of your professional circle who knows you perhaps through volunteer work or other things that you've done, or competitive sports that you might play on the weekends or used to play on the weekends. Find people who know something about you and ask them, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think my strengths are? How do you perceive me? I think you'd be amazed at what you'll hear. Now, look, you have to be open to that. I call it the gift of feedback. I've actually done entire sessions on the gift of feedback. The gift of feedback is that it allows you to grow. It may not be what you want to hear, but it allows you to grow. And at the end of the day, we're constantly growing. We should be constantly growing. So metrics-driven resume, figure out what your value and your worth is. And also going back to Kim, finally, your question, make sure that resume addresses the role that you are applying for. And also, from a networking perspective, is your networking looking for your next thing? Just like negotiation, make it about the other person. Take it away, take the focus away from you. People will understand and know what you're looking for and what you want, but make it about the other person. Offer them something, your time, open up your network to them, make it about them. It will help you establish a connection and a relationship with somebody where somebody will want to help you.
Yeah. That's great advice. I think this is, so helpful, and, particularly the feedback component. And I've always shared that same sentiment that feedback is a gift, and to look at it that way, and to be able to gather it from a variety of different standpoints, not just that annual review, what a boss has to say, but what your peers have to say, what, across the board, clients, that sort of thing, I think is really, really helpful to get a good sense of that, of your values. So thank you.
Absolutely. And by the way, I would not settle for an annual review.
Right.
I would be asking every quarter for some feedback, and a more formal review, if not every quarter, every 6 months. I think it's incumbent upon management today, particularly in coronavirus, where we're not seeing each other, where we are all remote, to provide that kind of feedback, because it's a different workforce today. What might have worked for you face-to-face in the office may not be working for you on Zoom, because we're all living our lives out on Zoom. And some people are comfortable doing this, some people are not comfortable doing this. But if that has an impact on your job, you should know that. I really do think, and honestly, here we go. Here's a business proposition for everybody. I think if we collectively could figure out a way to put together some kind of a training program, interactive training program that fed back to the person speaking into the microphone and into the camera, your Zoom skills are not so good. Your eyes drift, you don't look, your voice trails off. You look like you're scared. I mean, this is how we now communicate, for heaven's sake, right? I'm surprised nobody's come up with a real training program. So for all of you people out there, women in tech, women in fintech, let's think of this. Let's sell it. We can all then let go of our day jobs. So, but
ask a question.
Yes, I was just going to pivot to that, Jagati, so go for it.
So first I have to tell you, I got a sidebar, Nicole, that one of our audience said, what a fantastic speaker. So everything you're saying is valuable, real-time feedback for you now.
I love it.
Well, here's my
job is done. Goodbye.
Not yet. Here's my question for you. When you were talking about annual performance reviews, right? So we are coming into Q4. Most people are going to go into a performance review. And I've often heard, and I've told this to others, I'm not a practitioner of my own advice here. Performance reviews make really good summaries for resumes when we are finally writing it. So here's a question. As we're coming into performance review time in a period of COVID, remote working, managers have not seen, peers have not seen, 360-degree, all of that is happening in a strange place. What advice or what tips can you give us as we considering how we represent ourselves, whether we are going to ask for a raise, promotion, whatever, or just say, hey, I'm good here, I'm bringing value?
Yeah, I think, and great question. That's right. We are coming on the last quarter. Again, I would go back to look at your performance this year. Take a look at what your objectives were. Take a look at what someone asked you to do. Take a look at your job description, and also reflect back on the last performance review you've had, and come to the table with what you've done, what you've contributed. And again, hopefully with metrics, hopefully with financial metrics that show your value to the organization. Because I do think it's incumbent upon you to say, you know, I've achieved what we set out to do this year. And I would also think, in addition to that, take a look at what you've done to create community in your organization. Because despite the fact that we're all on Zoom all day long, lots of us feel very disconnected. And I think creating that community and creating that camaraderie and being there for everybody to support everybody is also another important criteria, not even criteria. I think it's another, first of all, one, I think it's a great thing to do. Two, I think it feeds and nurtures all of our souls. And three, I think your boss would think, yeah, you know, Nicole took the initiative to have Friday night cocktails for anyone who wanted to show up to talk about whatever. We all ended up showing our, you know, the pets that are sitting beneath our feet or whatever. It's creating community. It's helping people feel connected. It's not on your job description, but I think today in coronavirus, it's a great thing to bring to the table when you're having your performance appraisal. And look, I would be ready as well with what are your next steps in your role? So come performance appraisal time, showing up, having done your homework. And frankly, you should all be able to answer pretty easily, what's the problem I'm solving in the job that I'm doing today? What am I solving for? What am I trying to achieve, not only for myself, but for the greater good of the company? And be ready to speak about that. But you know, companies are all putting in place, and I'm sure many of you know or work for those companies or understand and have read this. Companies are putting lots of money and energy into keeping people engaged. Well, why don't you have something to do with that? Step up, have something to do with that. I think it speaks to your ambitions and where you want to go next, but also in that performance appraisal, be ready to talk to your manager about what's next for me. Here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts about what's next? So again, this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work, but I think once you get the hang of it, it won't seem like so much extra work being prepared for conversations like this.
Nicole, this is Catalina. I've got a follow-up question to what you just said, which I think is critical. Can you talk a little bit about setting goals? Because I think that's at the core of the review. You know, if you don't agree on the goals, you think it's one thing, you're an expectation. So levels of performance, and that's when, you know, the opinion about whether you reached it or exceeded it or not sometimes differs, is because the two individuals did not or do not agree on what it is that they set out to do.
Mm-hmm. I would hope that you all know what your goals are. The goals that have been put forth by your company. You might have personal and professional goals of your own, and those are yours. But I would hope that each of you has a really good understanding of what is expected of you and what your goals are. If you don't, going into the fourth quarter, this is the time to reconfirm what those are with your boss, to say, you know, here we find ourselves going into the last quarter. Here's what I've delivered this year. I think the expectation on goals is this. Would you agree? Is this your expectation on goals? Or you may just lob it over to them to say, I want to make sure I'm meeting the goals. Help me understand what are the financial goals or the metrics that I'm going to be, or the KPIs that I'm going to be held to at the end of the year. again, I would hope by now you'd know what those goals are. So Catalina, I'm not sure if that actually answers your question, or if you were actually driving at something else, but I would hope to
No,
God by
it
now.
does. I guess my point is that sometimes you think you know, and if you don't have that conversation, the two parties may not be on the same page. That was really my point, but you did answer the question.
And I would go into this last quarter, have a conversation with your boss to reconfirm as we go into this last quarter of the year. I just want to make sure that my understanding of what I need to now achieve between now and the end of the year, coupled with what I've done the last 9 months, means I will exceed my goals or I will meet my goals. I just want to make sure we are all on the same page. And look, there are plenty of companies that have changed their goals this year.
Right.
Given coronavirus, they have adjusted numbers down, up, who knows what. But again, I think this comes down to what's your value in the organization. And if you're not quite clear on what that is, and if what you've done this year is going to be sufficient, you better figure that out. Because look, at the end of the day, companies make business decisions about roles, typically not about people, but about roles. And if you can't show value in your role, statistically speaking, you are at risk in this kind of environment. Look, we just saw the market tank. I think it's rebounding today. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We have an election that's coming up. There's just lots of volatility ahead. And companies will have to make difficult decisions about roles and about resources. Again, it's not about you. In fact, I'm just about to drop a piece on redundancy and what to do if that happens. But figure out what your value is. Figure out what your worth is. And I think it's fair to ask. You don't need a lot of time from your manager, but and try to do it over Zoom. Try to do it over Zoom or WebEx or whatever you use, just to see them face to face and have that conversation and show up having done your homework.
I think that's terrific advice. And I think now, you know, there are opportunities. You know, COVID can be looked at as the change in goal setting, but also things have changed, and there could be opportunities as you're looking around for different kinds of goals that you might not have had on your, you know, so be aware of what those opportunities are that may result as because of this. We've got 2 minutes left, and just wanted to see if anybody has any other questions for Nicole. This has been just great session.
Yeah, and listen, if you have questions that you don't want to raise, you don't want to ask in this forum, you are welcome to find me on LinkedIn and connect with me there. Just remind me where we met, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Again, all my own personal opinions. So,
thank you so much.
Oh, go ahead, Lynn.
No,
You're back.
Put your email, if that's okay, in the chat.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Lynn, do you want to do it? You want me to do it?
I don't mind doing it.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure, go for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so feel free to send me a note if there are additional questions. You know, it's a lot to cover in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So, but look, at the end of the day, I hope you all are walking away with even one piece of, one thing you've learned today that you're going to do differently. One thing that you're going to take away to say either, I need to better define my contribution, or I don't have a metric. I don't know how to measure what I do, whatever it is. Or, I'm going to have to look into some negotiation and read up on it, hone your skills. Whatever it is. It is always my hope that everybody walks away with one thing that they will try and do that you never know. Could change the course of direction here. So thank you. Thank you all for letting me join you today.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And I know I'm walking away with more than one piece of great advice personally and to share and so forth. So I really thank you, Nicole, for your time and for your offer to talk with people offline as well.
Sure.
So staying true to time, we're wrapping up for today, and wish everybody that's either back at school or sending little ones or older ones or whatever the case may be with the launch of the school year, just wish everybody luck in this new normal. And, as we are heading into fall and all this uncertainty, but again, with it does come some opportunity. So again, Nicole, thank you so much. Stay tuned for our next session. We'll be back on September 23rd, more details to follow. But again, we thank you all for attending. And Nicole, again, a very special thank you to you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And everybody be well, be safe, wear a mask.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Kimberly.
Thank you.